Okay, Milky Way Galaxy says, why am I so paralyzed with fear? It's like I can't move because of the things I went through with my narcissist father. I'm afraid of what he might do next, therefore making me afraid to do anything. Well, that's, I don't know what all he did. Let me see if I can scroll up here. She says, I've been stuck for a while because my narcissist father always does something. Well, okay. And again, I don't know what all he's done in the past, but that's why. That's why you're so paralyzed with fear. This is a totally appropriate emotion for an appropriate situation. If you've got a problematic person in your life who has a pattern of doing problematic things, it's reasonable, right? It's reasonable to be concerned about what else this person's going to do. Makes total sense to me. I think it would be strange if you weren't concerned, right? Or that, like, because this is what he does. Like, he causes problems. So, all you can do, this is kind of my default advice for everybody, is at any given time, all any of us can do is to move ourselves to a place where we are safe and sane. So maybe that means, somehow limiting the impact, the negative impact that he can have on your life. Maybe that means, maybe that means texting him instead of calling him. Maybe that means limiting time that you see him. Maybe that means instead of, having him over to your house where you can't easily get him out the door, you go over there and you're only there for 2 hours. Maybe that means that you don't have any contact at all. Maybe that means, only you can can figure out where that line is for you to what you need to do in order to limit the impact, the negative impact that he has on your life. And also a big part of this too is going to be to anticipate. This is like the number one thing that all of us can do in life, really, is to anticipate. So if okay, my dad, I'm just making up examples. If you know that, he normally causes trouble around holidays, and maybe he drinks, he shows up drunk, he starts fights, he's bringing up things from, he's causing trouble. If you know that, then accepting the situation for what it is, realizing this is what he does. So when you accept it for what it is, then you're no longer surprised by it. You're no longer shocked, because it's like, yeah, this is what my father does. And I'm not going to expect it to be any different, because if I do that, I'm setting myself up to fail. It's kind of like Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football, right? So Lucy holds the football and Charlie Brown runs up to kick it and Lucy pulls it away at the very end, right? And so what happens? Charlie Brown lands flat on his back. And then next time he says, okay, Lucy, like, you're really going to hold the football this time, right? And she says, oh, I promise, like, this is going to be so much fun. And so what does he do? He believes her, and he runs and he goes and kicks the football, and she pulls it away and he falls flat on his back, and she laughs and laughs. And this goes on and on and on, right? Because Charlie Brown is not accepting what is. He keeps hoping that maybe this time Lucy will be different. It's the same thing with any type of problematic or abusive or toxic person. So if okay, this is what he normally does, to anticipate that to the best of your abilities, to not let this, if you're going to have contact with him, to not let it ruffle you, and to go as gray rock as possible, which means, remember, going gray rock is, Ross Rosenberg calls it the observe, don't absorb technique. And it's basically where you're becoming as reactive and responsive, well, mainly reactive. You're becoming as reactive as a gray rock, which is to say, not at all. So you're not, because you're anticipating things, you're not letting this person's bad behavior get to you. You're observing it, okay, but you're not absorbing it. You're not taking it personally. You're not getting tangled up in it. You're not going to try to argue. You're not going to try to do anything. You're just observing it, and you're seeing it kind of like as an outside, neutral third party to all of this, seeing the ridiculousness for what it is. and then moving yourself very quickly to a place of safety and sanity. Okay, Milky Way says, I am living in his apartment. The more I try to stay away from him, the worse he gets. She said, I tried Gray Rock and my father got worse. So, okay, so if you're living under the same roof and you absolutely have to, you can do Gray Rock in a way, because yes, it depends on how you do it. So if you have to, I forget who mentioned this term a while back and I absolutely loved it. They called it dumb like a fox. But what it is it's just, you're being very clever about how kind of non-reactive you are. So it's just keeping that emotional distance. Again, anticipating the behavior, but then keeping that emotional distance to where if he starts provoking you, you're seeing it for what it is, and you're making it, and it's so hard to do when you're in it. It really is. It takes a lot of practice. To just stay busy. If you're going to see him in the kitchen, to be on your cell phone, to kind of play the game. If you've got to play the game while you're there, then you need to play the game. And only you know what the game is and kind of what sets him off and whatever. But do what you can to get out of there as quickly as possible. Hippie Go Lucky says, yes, foxes are smart. Yes. And so that was kind of the irony of that statement of dumb like a fox, because the statement's normally clever like a fox, but it was dumb like a fox in that you're kind of playing dumb about your behavior. Like, oh, I didn't know that kind of me not being reactive to you was bothering you, but you're being clever about being dumb, if that makes sense. Just trying really hard to not get baited into anything, just staying extra busy, doing what you can to just avoid the situation as much as possible. And if that, I mean, again, like you're the one under the same roof, so, and you know him best, doing whatever you need to do in order to stay safe and sane. Maybe that's stroking his ego, right? So maybe that's telling him all of the stuff that he needs to hear. This is a game. This is all a game. View it as a game. This is a game that it's really hard to win. And so all you can do is to make it do what you need to do to make your situation as peaceful as humanly possible, because you're not dealing with a reasonable, rational human being. You're dealing with somebody who's trying to get power and control over you by any means necessary. So really, like, setting boundaries and, open, honest, sincere, solutions-oriented communication does not work with a manipulative person. If anything, it can make the situation worse, because then you're making yourself more vulnerable trying to actually work towards a solution when their goal is not to work towards a solution. Their goal is to get power and control over you. So that's where we go wrong. And this is what takes us so long to figure out, because we think that other people are like us, right? That we're dealing with another reasonable, rational human being. And if we can just somehow get through to them, if we can just communicate effectively, then we can work towards a solution. But again, they're not working towards a solution. They're working towards getting power and control. So, big difference. Lots of love to you guys. You are not alone. You are not crazy, and you really can move forward and heal from this.